Sheri Kennedy is an artist and creativity consultant and the owner of Fusionary Thinking. She is going to share 3 ways that we can invite the creative process to begin, connecting the mind, body, and creative core. So Sheri, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you to all of you wonderful presenters who got us kicked off so beautifully. So I'm going to talk a little bit about creativity and sort of my perspective on it, and then I'm going to introduce an activity that you can do with me. And I was noticing a couple minutes ago that my screen was getting a little laggy, so if it does do that, please, one of you hosts, let me know, and I can, and we may need to come back if I need to pause, kick somebody off of the, the internet in my house so it works better. So I do lots of different creative things. I would consider that creativity is kind of a passion of mine, passion, addiction, you can decide what you want to call it. And I've always believed that everyone is creative, that creativity takes many, many forms. It can be as like a really elegant spreadsheet. It can be a creative solution to getting groceries at the moment from the store to the car, to the house, to the refrigerator safely. It can be finding ways to occupy the kids so that you can have an uninterrupted Zoom call. Creativity takes many forms. And if you're like me, you may feel a little bit like, if you're used to generating the kind of generative creativity, it can feel like everything sort of came to a screeching halt, and that generation just feels very different. So I want to give you permission to give yourself a break at the moment, if you're feeling that way like I am, and sort of acknowledge that you are still that creative person. The creativity just may be taking slightly different forms, and that to sort of bring it back to what's going on for us, that you may be experiencing a lot of interruptions, and it's hard to get in a flow when you're interrupted, and those interruptions can take lots of different forms, and they can happen regularly and repeatedly, and those can actually trigger those fight or flight reactions. Oh my God, was it a lion? No, it was just the phone ringing. It was another robocall. You know, it's okay. And then you can sort of bring yourself back to calm. And I also am thinking about the way that the human brain works, and how we're programmed to worry about the most essential things first: our safety, our food, and our human connections. And it's not really until those things are sort of secured, then sometimes our brains can get to that higher place where we can think about being really creative and get into what feels like our true selves, our greatest selves. So so it's understandable that it's harder to get to that creative place right now. And and we don't have all the answers. We don't really know when, but I hope that we can all relax a little bit in the knowledge that eventually things will go back to normal, whatever that new normal is going to look like. And I personally am really hopeful that things will change for the better when we come out of this. There's a lot that we're going to recognize and acknowledge that we just didn't have time to wrestle with before. And I think that there can be some real positive outcomes afterward. So, and I'd like to propose that we also sort of acknowledge and agree at the moment that this place of unknown and not knowing can also be a place from which amazing things can bubble up. So to help us get into that creative state of mind, or give you a tip for how I get into that creative state of mind when I have at least 10 minutes to do so, I wanted to introduce a tool that I use. And it's really 3 legs of a stool. And just to show the limited creativity I've had on time to do here, it's 3 legs. It's the mind, the body, and the muse. And when those 3 legs are there, and they're sort of, it's not really steps in order, it's they really interrelate. And when those are all in place, they can support creativity. So there's my little visual for to help us remember. So step one, and I'm going to invite you to do this together. I know we've been sitting for a long time, so if you feel like standing up at the moment and doing this with me, feel free. So step one is to engage the mind and choose a focal point. So we had some wonderful opportunities to do that this morning, like in the poetry and in the music and the breath. Other ways to do this are guided meditation. It's a way to calm the monkey mind. And step two is rooting the body. So, and we're going to do kind of both the mind and the body together. So rooting the body is finding some place of grounding. So noticing your breath and stretching a little bit. I'm going to sit so that so that I'm not leaving the camera, but feel free to stand and do this. And so whether you're standing or sitting, find your ground, let yourself sink in to the chair or to your feet and feel the floor below you. And feel that firmness, that solidity in your body. And then lifting your hands, let your hands kind of float up and just make some waves in the air. Just start to feel the air between your fingers. And whichever hand you usually write with, keep that hand up in the air, let the other hand drop, and grab an imaginary pen and just write your name in the air. So this is where the mind comes in and has a focus. Write your name in the air and just keep doing it. And maybe you can change, if you were doing caps in lowercase, you can change to all capitals. You can use fancy writing, however you want to do. And now we're going to add step three, which is inviting the muse. So we're going to play with it. We're going to get a little bit creative. And the idea with inviting the muse is start small, start easy, and just do anything, create anything. So maybe take your other hand and drop the pen and use all your fingers and write your name with two hands at a time and see what that feels like. And maybe you do mirror image and put the letters right over each other. So you're making some different shapes, and maybe they're getting a little bit bigger, and maybe make it really big, and don't even worry about the letters now. Let the letters go and just make shapes, and whatever shapes you want to make, what feels right to you. Go ahead and get your whole body into it and just let go. And go ahead and keep moving if you want. I will just wrap up by saying that those are the three steps that I like to follow. Engage the mind, root the body, invite the muse. And I hope that helped you get a little bit more into flow, and that you can adapt and modify these steps for you when the next time that you want to find your flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheri. I think those are actually wonderful tips for how to get started in the morning and also to wind down for the evening and probably in between. So thank you so much.